Creepypastas and all their silly little cringiness are re-emerging to the limelight as of late. If you somehow don't know what these scary noodles and pastas are, they are basically scary stories on the internet. The term creepypasta was a phrase coined by the copy and pasting done of many popular scary stories. Later on, they became less pasteable and more story-based / campfire tales. Pastas were incredibly popular in the 2010s. As for me, I was a huge pasta fangirl. I read so many DeviantArt fan fictions where the pasta characters were all hot, sexy teens who just wanted to be loved and understood, and also they lived in a giant fucking mansion in some fucking forest with Slender Man. Notably prominent in my mind, and very much like unlike prior stated fanfics, was that one with Eyeless Jack where he and Your Name lived in the forest, and one time he got drunk and broke a window, proceeding to cry about breaking the window because he loved it. Now, I have seen so many recent top 10 creepypasta videos and the like lately, and I don't want to hop on the bandwagon and give you another one of those. Instead, I want to go over the top 10 quote-unquote sexiest creepypasta characters. And I say sexiest very loosely because most of these are teenagers. There is no easy way to make an acronym for these creepypastas, so from here on I will mostly be referring to them as pastas. Using my knowledge as an ex-fangirl in the community and a self-proclaimed emo connoisseur of the 2010s era, I will be making this list on my own based on research and claims from what accounts I can find. This is very, very limited resources, and I wasn't able to find a whole lot, shockingly. Like, I was very shocked when I was doing my research. So the testimonies and numbers I may have come up with, they might be a little inaccurate. If you disagree, or maybe if you agree, maybe even hate it, maybe even love it, you should tell me in the comments below. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Number 10 is Hoodie, our first spot on the list, and it isn't even a pasta. Although closely associated with pastas, Hoodie belongs to the iconic and popular ARG series Marble Hornets. Hoodie is a fan-given name and is canonically dead, killed by his alter ego Brian's best friend, Tim. Another misconception is that Hoodie is a proxy to the Operator, also known as Slender Man, but they don't work together, and this is also true for Masky. But they do have very similar motives and the same end goal, from what I can tell. Next on the list is number 9, X-Virus, and I'm going to be so real with y'all on this. There were a few pastas I had genuinely never heard of when I was going through my research, like there were a few. I have this spreadsheet with all the pasta characters who got mentioned more than once or had several votes. I'm thinking of quota. I have this spreadsheet with all the pasta characters who got mentioned more than once or had several votes in quizzes, and this guy, yeah, he's one of them. So let me speed read this fucker story real quick and I'll be back.
2 hours later.
Evidently, this is a very new pasta, from what I can tell at least, seeing as I can't find all too much on X-Virus earlier than 2020. A short, brief pasta that I do feel is reminiscent of something I'd write on DeviantArt or Wattpad in 2016. That's not me saying that the writing is bad. I'm just saying that it feels jumbled and incoherent at quite a few points, jumping from point to point as it does. There is always room for improvement, and again, I'm not saying that the writing is bad. It's better than any fanfic I could write now. That being said, this pasta gave me such cozy feelings of nostalgia. I personally wish there wasn't that tie-in with Tiki Toby at the end, although it is clear that X-Virus is a family-oriented character in a sense, so the ending of his story, with him finding a quote-unquote blood brother, doesn't fall too far off the established character. So, actually, I was wrong.
2 hours later.
This actually seems to be an OC from 2013 by the artist Mama Porcupine. I couldn't find the original story, and it seems Porcupine doesn't know where the original story or file is for X-Virus herself. In a Twitter thread, she goes on to state that she deleted everything regarding X-Virus's origins and stories as she wanted to focus on other, more personal things, and this is from what I understand. Mama Porcupine posts in Spanish, so I'm using Google Translate of all things to understand what she's expressing, but come 2023, she has posted on Twitter that she would be rewriting Liam's story. I don't understand who Cody is, because the story I read of X-Virus, his name was Cody, but Mommy Porcupine Mama Porcupine has named him Liam, and while he seems quick to form a relationship in the fandom rewrite, Mama Porcupine says she wrote him out originally to be much more cold and crude. I could honestly probably do a whole video on this one, whether or not X-Riders is getting a revamp, I don't know. Moving on, number 8, Clockwork. I love women! Sometimes they make me giggle and kick my feet in bed. Sometimes... Fun fact, only 2 female pastas had any votes when I was doing the data, and both of them made the top 10. Here at number 8 we have Clockwork, a pasta whose story has a disgusting prologue that genuinely did not need to be included. So much that when I listened to my first ever reading of Clockwork, Your Time Is Up, I had no idea the intro existed until years later. Should viewers go and search for the story, be warned, there is SA. Clockwork is a super overpowered god-modded pasta. Her snap came from her boyfriend breaking up with her because she liked to draw, quote, gore and anime.
Anime and gore. Right.
Unquote. And I know that is exactly what the pasta states Clockwork draws, because Hoodoo Hoodlum's Revenge saying that line echoes in my head more often than I'd like to admit. Clockwork kills her whole family after killing a few bodyguards and heavy men at a grippy sock hotel. Once she is home, she also sticks a small clock into her eye because of the idea she had expressed to her therapist at the time of being a... What? I don't know how to write. Basically, she expressed to her therapist that time was against her, and so she stuck the clock in her eyes. So it could never be against her or something like that. And her therapist later gave her quote-unquote mental drugs, which I think is just such a funny quote. Number 7, Ben Drowned. Any of you fuckers who voted Ben Drowned, at least any of you who voted them, you need to see a therapist ASAP. He is a child. Not only is Ben the person or ghost portraying the story a literal child, but so is Link from Majora's Mask, which is the character Ben specifically haunts. Or if you want him to be technical, it's the elegy statue, but who the fuck cares? He's a child. TLDR, Ben Drowned is a pasta about a guy who goes into a garage sale, and there he finds a game cartridge for the N64 LOZ Majora's Mask. When the MC asks what price it's for, the seller says free and then disappears. MC goes home, plays the game to find an old save file under the name Ben. The file is haunted, and the elegy statue follows him around, and then MC's Link drowns. A text box appears reading, "You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" Okay, so I gave that TLDR because Ben Drowned is incredibly well known, and also it's tied to a wonderful ARG. I highly suggest going and reading and delving into Ben Drowned and all it has to offer for yourself. Side note, but does anyone else remember that craze of asking Cleverbot about this story? Because I do. Also, stop sexualizing this young fellow. Number 6, Jane the Killer. And with this, our second and last female addition to the list. Jane, I've always had this low-key kind of crush on, even though the depictions of her are so inaccurate. That's not even to say that the other pastas are depicted very accurately, but we will get to that later on. Jane's story is basically about how she was this female observer or bystander when Jeff the Killer story was happening, and well, she liked Jeff, and there was some romance played out. None of it mattered because Jeff tried to kill her anyways. He failed, and so now Jane roams the streets of every city, searching for him and killing people she thinks Jeffrey wants to kill, because she wants to get to them first. Because she's a bitch. And it genuinely makes no sense. Maybe I'm getting this twisted. So in the case that I am, I do know that the reason Jane kills was some petty thing that made little logical sense to spite the sexy man Jeffrey himself. Can I just say that Baptism on Fire's rendition of Jane the Killer was phenomenal? I don't remember if it was their cosplay or collaboration of sorts, but whoever did the Jane cosplay was incredible. It sticks out to me to this day, years later after viewing it. Number 6, Homicidal Lou. This guy was tied for 6th place with Jane. It surprised me a bit, but whatevs. I love when so many of any pasta comes back to Jeff the Killer. Our sexy man is so popular. This time, instead of Jeff's rival or enemy, we have his brother. Now, admittedly, I have not read his story myself, opting to have listened to his name's a tongue tire sometimes. Opting to have listened to Hoodoo Hoodlum's Revenge, read it blindly years ago. I think it's much funnier this way. When Jeff comes to murder his family, Lou is not disregarded in the grisly murder spree. Lou does not die, narrowly escaping death's cold grasp, waking up in a hospital. I think he falls in love with a nurse who took care of him, but I think he later kills her. Somewhere along the line, he goes all homicidal and shiz. Not who I was expecting to be on this list, never been a fan, but Lou is probably one of the most okay and maybe less illegal picks for this list, but not... Who the fuck is Sully? Oh, I forgot. But not Sully. I think the Sully personality of Lou is like 7 or something. The second pick I included is from my waifu list, and I just wanted to note that because I think it's funny. I can't believe you can't see this, but I took pictures and I put them on the list for like next to each character because I have a photographic memory. Thanks me. Number 5, Laughing Jack. Here we are! We're halfway! Yay! As for childhood crushes, I can confidently say I did not have one on old LJ here. But I do enjoy looking at him now as an adult. If I just forget that he will kill animals and kids and people for the hell of it and don't feel some type of way about it. Oh, but he is very handsome and aesthetically pleasing and makes my brain go, ooh. Laughing Jack is also the halfway point to our list. Oh, I already said that. Good job, me. Laughing Jack is an ethereal entity who came to life back in the good old ages by a young man as his imaginary friend. This guy ends up eventually forgetting about LJ, and LJ is very sad by this. But one day this guy comes back as an adult, and this adult version of LJ's friend has a new twisted side, a murderous side. And as his imaginary friend, Jack takes after his new friend's personality. Years and years later, Jack has a new friend and ends up killing him in some pretty brutal way after killing the boy's family dog. I think Laughing Jack is a great idea. What happens to imaginary friends after you forget about them with a horrific twist. Growing up, I saw so many posts like, "Oh my god, I read Laughing Jack's story and didn't vomit! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, 1, exclamation point, exclamation point." Like it was some great feat. Yes, this story. Not even a visual depiction that is tame compared to other pastas that are soft gore porn that did not make me puke. I made one of these posts myself and my friends called me a dumbass, rightfully so. Number 4, Tiki Toby. Call me cringe now. Prepare thyself for giggles and gaffucks allure, because I was obsessed with Tiki Toby. This man is the reason I fell in love with the name Toby, so in a sense you can say I named myself after him, which is just mentally unwell behavior. But here we are, it's 2024 and my name is Toby. Anyways, Tichi Tony Roberts.
Tichi Toby? I don't even know how to say him. Tichi? His real name is Toby Roberts, I just learned.
Tony Aaron Rogers is a boy with Tourette syndrome and a car crash survivor, a dead sister, an alcoholic abusive father, and a loving mother. Just the all-American family that Scott Fitzgerald dunked on in The Great Gatsby. Nothing to see here, folks. Like I was saying, Toby is a car crash survivor, and in said car crash, his sister, Lyra, dies. After her death, he is inconsolable. Nothing anyone could say would pull him out of his depression. So his mother, the loving one, takes him to therapy after he starts not being nice to his body. And then there, he's put on meds, and they work great at first. After a while, Toby starts hearing things, someone speaking to him, static. Eventually, he just loses it and kills his father. And when his mother, the loving one, finds what he's done, Toby proceeds to flee and fake his own death via an act of arson. Little does everyone else know that he is alive and working as a proxy under Slender Man. Toby has been quite the fan favorite in the Basta community, so his being on the list was no surprise. I was more surprised to see him at number 4. I thought he'd at least be 3, but I digress. I think the love of Toby is aptly shown in Baptism on Fire series, the one Ask Jeff the Killer and Laughing Jack, where Toby is a lovable, gullible, annoying, silly guy who gets in the way. This series raised me in all honesty, and I've been sitting on a script for Baptism on Fire for quite a while. Anyways, Toby is cool, and I think that out of this list, he has to be one of the better, more well-written, not totally nonsensical stories out of a lot on this list, but I'm biased. Number 3. Masky. I should say that in a funnier voice. I again want to state that I am aware that Masky is a marble hornet. However, due to his close association to creepypastas and the fandom, I included Masky. And they were included on some of the polls when I was doing all of my research and numbers. Maybe I fooled you when we were talking about Hoodie, but I genuinely have never seen the Marble Hornet series. I know, shame on me. Boo me. Masky, also known as Tim Wright, is the man with the sickness. This allegedly caused by Slenderman causes extreme coughing, paranoia, nausea, vomiting blood, and extreme exhaustion. Much like Hoodie, Masky is an alternate version of Tim Wright, and they are the same person, but we don't know how they can exist at the same time. He also kills his friend Brian, and in my notes, I just have, it says play that one McCafferty song about the front bottoms. You know, I get all my lyrics from a guy named Brian.
I know I stole that line, steal all my lines from this guy named Brian.
I don't know. That's all I have to say about Masky since I know very little about him. Same for Hoodie. And reading the blood and synopsis and fandom posts get very confusing when you haven't watched the videos. Could I? Probably. Will I? Probably not. Also, I never expected Masky to be above Toby, but I guess it's fair. Call me salty.
Jeff.
Killer. Him? Number 2? I can't even fathom this. Oh my days. If you don't know who Jeff is, then you are quite literally living under a rock. Even people at Spirit Halloween and people in movie and TV industry know who this guy is. Still shocked they never went through with the TV show, even if it wouldn't have been good. Rambling aside, Jeff is your average boy who just moved to a new town because his dad got a new job. From day one, Jeff and his brother Lou are targeted by the local bullies. Jeff stabs one, and his brother takes the fall. After that, Jeff is depressed, and then goes to a child's birthday party for appearances of his parents' social life and standing. There, at the child's birthday party, Jeff is wounded and set on fire by previous local bullies. No adult here does anything! Oh, we're just so responsible. Jeff wakes up in the hospital, and when taking off his bandages, he finds himself to be an autosexual. Don't know what that is? Look it up. It's not being attracted to cars. But it'd be so funny if he just magically was into cars after the whole like freak fucking accident thing. That'd be so funny. Later on, Jeff cannot stop admiring his new looks in the mirror and so happy he cannot smiling. What? He's so happy he can't stop smiling, but he needs to smile bigger. So he gets a smile into his face and removes his eyelids so he can always see himself. But his mommy doesn't like this and tells daddy to get the shotgun. But before they can do anything, Jeff kills them both. And for some reason, Lou, even though he did nothing wrong. Free my boy. Why does the internet thirst for him? Much like the Jane the Killer accurate cosplay featured on Baptism on Fire's channel back in the day, I think something of that appearance would be more accurate to Jeff rather than the emo fuck we see often. Jeff is goofy though, and the origins of the original picture of him are lost media, I believe, so that's fun. And here we are, number 1. It's not a drum. Number 1, Eyeless Jack. Yeah, so the intro where I mentioned I was an eyeless Jack girly, yeah, that was for fat. That was foreshadowing. I win, bitches. I never much liked EJ's story because I remember thinking it was pretty dumb, and upon rereading it for this video, I still feel that way, but he's cool, so I guess we have a win. Our main character, Mitch, has moved in with his brother, Edwin. Don't worry. Unlike Masky and Hoodie, neither of these guys are EJ. Mitch wakes up one morning and has a scar on his cheek. He and his brother go to the hospital where Mitch is told you somehow lost your left kidney last night. We don't know how though. Sorry, Mitch. Unquote. Truly a great doctor. The next night, Mitch awakes to see a person wearing a blue mask with empty black eye sockets dripping a dark substance standing above him. Whoever they were, they politely waited for Mitch to take a picture of them and then attacked Mitch. This is EJ, ever the gentleman. Mitch runs away and trips, hitting his head and passing out cold. When he wakes up, he's in the hospital, and the same doctor tells him that Edwin was killed. Mitch goes back to get his stuff from Edwin's house, seeing as he now has to move out after just moving in, and sees his brother's dead body still lying in the hallway where he was presumably killed. Next to him is a half-eaten kidney with gooey black substance. If that makes no sense to you, don't worry. The original story is about on the same wavelength of nonsensical. Somewhere I heard that EJ was the product of a ritual and he was the final sacrifice to be like the puppet of the god of whatever fucking cult this was. But I've genuinely never found anything to back this up. No matter though, I'm just happy that I had the right opinion. I had the right opinion. This is the #1 sexiest creepypasta. So, it's 2024, and I mean, I was a fan of this stuff back in, 2016. We're at, 8 years. 8 years, I have loved creepypastas. They kind of raised me. I bought YouTube Premium on my phone, so that way when I go to work, I can just throw in my headphones and listen to a Mr. Creepypasta story. Just while I work. It's so good. It's so good. Oh my god. I just never grew out of them. So even though they raised me, I'm not a murderer. And that's coming from someone who dated a guy, who killed a guy, and also was a creepypasta kid. So, fun times. Fun times. I just managed to make it out well-adjusted enough. And to close it off, here are some honorable mentions. These are the ones that got included in my research process but didn't make the list. Bloody Painter, Candy Pop, Dark Link, and what the fuck, he's not even a creepypasta. Dr. Smiley, Jason the Toymaker, Lost Silver, The Puppeteer, Lost Red, Seed Eater, and I don't understand this one. Whatever. And Slender Man, which is honestly a shocker. I expected him to be up there. And that's it. That's everybody. That's everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry if I was annoying. Have a wonderful day or night or whatever. Thanks. Bye.